Chapter 42. Once the two of them were alone, Miss Saiki offered Nakata a chair. He thought about it for a moment before sitting down. They sat there for a time without speaking, eyeing each other across the desk. Nakata placed his hiking hat on his lap and gave his short hair a good rub with his hand. Miss Saiki rested both hands on the desktop, quietly watching him go through his routine. "Unless I'm mistaken, I think I've been waiting for you to come," she said. "I believe that's true," Nakata replied. "But it took some time for Nakata to get here. I hope I didn't make you wait too long. I did my best to get here as quickly as I could." Miss Saiki shook her head. "No, it's perfectly all right. If you'd come any earlier or any later, I would have been even more at a loss, I suppose. For me, right now is the perfect time. Mr. Hoshino was very kind to me and helped me out a lot. If I had to do it alone, it would have taken even longer. Nakata can't read after all." "Mr. Hoshino is your friend, isn't he?" "Yes," Nakata replied and nodded. "I think he is. But to tell you the truth, I'm not at all too sure about that. Besides cats, I've never had what you call a friend in my life." "I haven't any friends either, for quite some time," Miss Saiki said, "other than in memories." "Miss Saiki?" "Yes," she replied. "Actually, I don't have any memories either. I'm dumb, you see, so could you tell me what memories are like?" Miss Saiki stared at her hands on the desk, then looked up at Nakata again. "Memories warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart." Nakata shook his head. "That's a tough one. Nakata still doesn't understand. The only thing I understand is the present." "I'm the exact opposite," Miss Saiki said. A deep silence settled over the room. Nakata was the one who broke it, lightly clearing his throat. "Miss Saiki?" "Yes?" "You know about the entrance stone, don't you?" "Yes, I do," she said. She brushed the mown black paint on the desk with her fingers. "I happened to come across it a long time ago. Perhaps it would have been better if I'd known about it, but I had no choice in the matter." "Nakata opened it again a few days ago, the afternoon when there was lightning. Lots of lightning falling all over town. Mr. Hoshino helped me. I couldn't have done it myself. Do you know the day I'm talking about?" Miss Saiki nodded. "Yes, I remember. I opened it because I had to." "I know. You did that so things would be restored to the way they should be." It was Nakata's turn to nod. "Exactly. And you had the right to do it." "Nakata doesn't know about that. In any case, it wasn't about something I chose. I have to tell you this. I murdered someone in Nakano. I didn't want to kill anybody, but Johnny Walker was in charge, and I took the place of the 15-year-old boy who should have been there, and I murdered someone. Nakata had to do it." Miss Saiki closed her eyes, then opened them and looked him in the face. "Did all that happen because I opened the entrance stone a long time ago? Does that still have an effect even now, distorting things?" Nakata shook his head. "Miss Saiki?" "Yes," she said. "Nakata doesn't know about that. My role is to restore what's here now to where it should be. That's why I left Nakano, went across a huge bridge, and came to Shikoku. And as I'm sure you're aware, you can't stay here anymore." Miss Saiki smiled. "I know," she said. "It's what I've been hoping for, Mr. Nakata, for a long time. Something I longed for in the past, what I'm longing for right now. No matter how I tried, though, I couldn't grasp it. I simply had to sit and wait for that time. Now, in other words, to come. It wasn't always easy, but suffering is something I've had to accept." "Miss Saiki," Nakata said, "I only have half a shadow, the same as you." "I know." "Nakata lost it during that war. I don't know why that had to happen, and why it had to be me. At any rate, a long time has passed since then, and it's nearly time for us to live here." "I understand." "Nakata's lived a long time, but as I said, I don't have any memories, so this suffering you talked about, I don't rightly understand. But what I think is, no matter how much suffering you went through, you never wanted to let go of those memories." "That's true," Miss Saiki said. "It hurt more and more to hold on to them, but I never wanted to let them go, as long as I was alive. It was the only reason I had to go on living, the only thing that proved I was alive." Nakata nodded silently. Living longer than I should have only ruined many people and many things, she went on. Just recently, I had a sexual relationship with that 15-year-old boy you mentioned. In that room, I became a 15-year-old girl again and made love to him. I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but I couldn't help it. But those actions must surely have caused something else to be ruined. That's my only regret. Nakata doesn't understand. Nakata doesn't know about sexual desire. Just like I don't have memories, I don't have any desire. So I don't understand the difference between right or wrong sexual desire. But if something did happen, it happened. Whether it's right or wrong, I accept everything that happens. And that's how I became the person I am now. Mr. Nakata? Yes. I have a favor to ask. Miss Saiki picked up the bag at her feet, took out a small key and unlocked a desk drawer, then pulled out some thick file folders and laid them on top of the desk. Ever since I came back to this town, she said, I've been writing this, a record of my life. I was born nearby and fell deeply in love with a boy who lived in this house. I couldn't have loved him more, and he was deeply in love with me. We lived a perfect circle where everything inside was complete. Of course, that couldn't go on forever. We grew up and times changed. Parts of the circle fell apart. The outside world came rushing into a private paradise, and things inside tried to get out. All quite natural, I suppose. Yet at the time I couldn't accept it, and that's why I opened up the entrance stone to prevent our perfect private world from collapsing. I can't remember now how I managed to do it, but I decided I had to open the stone no matter what, so I wouldn't lose him, so things from the outside wouldn't destroy our world. I didn't understand at the time what it would mean, and of course I received my punishment. She stopped speaking here, picking up the fountain pen and closed her eyes. My life ended at age 20. Since then it's been merely a series of endless reminiscences, a dark, winding corridor leading nowhere. Nevertheless, I had to live it, surviving each empty day, seeing each day off still empty. During those days, I made a lot of mistakes. No, that's not correct. Sometimes I feel that all I did was make mistakes. I felt like I was living at the bottom of a deep well, completely shut up inside myself, cursing my fate, hating everything outside. Occasionally I ventured outside myself, putting on a good show of being alive, accepting whatever came along, numbly slipping through life. I slept around a lot, at one point even living in a sort of marriage, but it was all pointless. Everything passed away in an instant, with nothing left behind except the scars of things I endured and despised. She laid her hands on top of the 3 files on her desk. All the details are in here. I wrote this to put it all in order, to make sure one more time about the life I lived. I have only myself to blame, but it's a gut-wrenching process, and I've finally finished it. I've written everything I need to write. I don't need this anymore, and I don't want anybody else to read it. If someone else happened to see it, it might cause harm all over again. So I want it all burned up, every last page, so nothing's left. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to take care of it. You're the only person I can depend on, Mr. Nakata. I'm sorry to bother you with this, but could you do it for me? Nakata understands, he said, nodding seriously. If that's what you'd like, Miss Saiki, I'll be happy to burn it all up for you. You can rest assured. Thank you, Miss Saiki said. Writing things was important, wasn't it? Nakata asked. Yes, it was. The process of writing was important, even though the finished product is completely meaningless. I can read or write, so I can write things down. Nakata's just like a cat. Mr. Nakata, how can I help you? I feel like I've known you for ages, Miss Saiki said. Weren't you in that painting? A figure in the sea in the background? White pants, legs rolled up, dipping your feet in the water? Nakata silently stood up and came over to stand in front of Miss Saiki. He laid his sunburned hand, on top of hers on the files, and as if listening carefully to something, he felt the warmth there filter from her hand to his. Miss Saiki, yes? I think I understand a little now. About what? What memories are? I can feel them now, through your hands. She smiled. I'm glad. Nakata kept his hands on top of hers for a long while. Eventually, Miss Saiki closed her eyes, quietly giving herself over to memories. There was no more pain there, for someone had siphoned it off forever. The circle was once again complete. She opens the door of a faraway room and finds two beautiful coats in the shape of lizards asleep on the wall. She gently touches them and can feel their peaceful sleep. A gentle wind is blowing, rustling the old curtain from time to time, a significant rustling like some parable. She is wearing a long blue dress, a dress she wore somewhere a long time ago. Its hem swishes faintly as she walks. The shore is visible outside the window, and you can hear the sound of waves and someone's voice. There's a hint of the sea in the breeze, and it's summer. Always it's summer. Small white clouds are etched against the azure sky. Nakata carried the three thick files downstairs. Oshima was at the counter talking with one of the patrons. When he saw Nakata, he grinned. Nakata gave a polite bow in return, and Oshima went back to his conversation. Hoshino was in the reading room all the while, deep in a book. "Mr. Hoshino," Nakata said. Hoshino laid his book down and looked up. "Hey, that took a while. You all finished?" "Yes, Nakata's all finished here. If it's alright with you, I was thinking we can leave pretty soon." "Fine by me. I'm nearly finished with this book. Beethoven just died, and I'm at the part about the funeral. Man, what a funeral. 25,000 Viennese joined the procession, and they closed all the schools for the day." "Mr. Hoshino?" "Yeah, what's up?" "I have one more favor to ask of you." "Shoot." "I need to burn this somewhere." Hoshino looked at the files the old man was carrying. That's a lot of stuff. We can't just burn it anywhere. We'd need a dry riverbed or someplace." "Mr. Hoshino?" "Yeah?" "Let's go find one then." "Maybe this is a stupid question, but is that really so important? Can't we just toss it somewhere?" "Yes, it's very important, and we have to burn it all up. It has to turn into smoke and rise into the sky, and we have to watch it to make sure it all burns up." Hoshino stood up and stretched. "Okay, let's find a big riverbed. I have no idea where, but I'm sure Shikoku's gotta have at least one, if we look long enough." The afternoon was busier than it had ever been. Lots of people came to use the library, several with detailed, specialized questions. It was all Oshima could do to respond and to run around collecting materials that had been requested. Several items he had to locate on the computer. Normally he'd ask Miss Saiki to help out, but today it didn't look like he'd be able to. Various tasks took him away from his desk, and he didn't even notice when Nakata left. When things settled down for a moment, he looked around, but the strange pair was nowhere to be seen. Oshima walked upstairs to Miss Saiki's study. Strangely, the door was shut. He knocked twice and waited, but there was no response. He knocked again. "Miss Saiki?" he said from outside the door. "Are you all right?" He softly turned the knob. The door was unlocked. Oshima opened it a crack and peeked inside, and saw Miss Saiki face down on the desk. Her hair had tumbled forward, hiding her face. He didn't know what to do. Maybe she was just tired and had fallen asleep, but he'd never once seen her take a nap. She wasn't the type to doze off at work. He walked into the room and went over to the desk. He leaned over and whispered her name in her ear, but got no response. He touched her shoulder, then held her wrist and pressed his finger against it. There was no pulse. Her skin retained a faint warmth, but it was already fading away. He lifted her hair and checked her face. Both eyes were slightly open. She looked like she was having a pleasant dream, but she wasn't. She was dead. A faint trace of a smile was still on her lips. Even in death, she was graceful and dignified, Oshima thought. He let her hair fall back and picked up the phone on the desk. He resigned himself to the fact that it was only a matter of time before this day came. But now that it had, and he was alone in this quiet room with a dead Miss Saiki, he was lost. He felt as if his heart had dried up. I needed her, he thought. I needed someone like her to fill the void inside me, but I wasn't able to fill the void inside her. Until the bitter end, the emptiness inside her was hers alone. Somebody was calling out his name from downstairs. He felt like he'd heard that voice. He'd left the door wide open and could hear the sounds of people bustling around. A phone rang on the first floor. He ignored it all. He sat down and gazed at Miss Saiki. You want to call my name? He thought. Go right ahead. You want to call on the phone? Be my guest. Finally, he heard an ambulance siren that seemed to be getting closer. In a few moments, people will be rushing upstairs to take her away forever. He raised his left arm and glanced at his watch. It was 4:35. 4:35 on a Tuesday afternoon. I have to remember this time, he thought. I have to remember this day, this afternoon forever. Kafka Tamura, he whispered, staring at the wall. I have to tell you what happened, if you don't already know.